Welcome to the deep dive. We are really getting into a story today that you probably think you know pretty well. Kisa Gotami and her search for those mustard seeds.
Right, the impossible search. It's everywhere, often just presented as a sort of simple fable about grief, something universal.
Yeah, but when you actually synthesize the sources, you know, the early texts, the later commentaries, all the philosophical takes, you find it's this incredibly rich case study, ancient psychology, even therapeutic teaching.
Absolutely. It's way more than just a moral story. It's a fantastic example of what Buddhism calls upaya, skillful means. The Buddha's approach is, well, it's basically a spiritual intervention tailored perfectly to her state of mind.
Guiding her from this just absolute crippling grief towards a universal truth, but step by step.
Exactly, matching the treatment to where she was psychologically.
So our mission today is really to unpack the genius of that intervention, but also dig into the textual history behind it, which is surprisingly complex. There's a real aha moment in there.
Oh, definitely. And to really get the depth, you have to understand Kisa Gotami's situation before the tragedy. Her stakes were incredibly high.
Her name even tells us something, right? Kisa Gotami.
Gotami, yeah.
It points to her background, low birth, poverty. She only sort of escaped that by marrying into a wealthier, higher status family.
So she's already in a vulnerable position.
Yeah.
And her son, he wasn't just, you know, a beloved child.
No, he was her only real anchor. Her social standing, her security in that new family, it all rested on him.
So when he died suddenly, it wasn't just grief. It was like a total collapse, social, existential, everything threatening to just vanish.
That level of threat really explains her reaction, the intensity of it. It's almost textbook psychological denial.
She just refused to accept it.
Physically refused, clutching the child's body, which the texts note was starting to decay, and just wandering through Shravasti, the city, begging anyone for medicine to bring him back.
Wow. You can just picture it, wandering the market, holding this lifeless child. The reactions must have been awful.
The sources describe a whole spectrum. Pity, yes, but also horror. People mocking her or just shutting their doors. Complete isolation.
Her grief, that raw denial, it just severed her from everyone else's reality.
Exactly. She was totally alone in her delusion, and that isolation just made the pain infinitely worse.
So it's at this rock bottom point that someone directs her to the Buddha. An elder, right?
Yes, a village elder sees the child is gone, but maybe the mother isn't completely lost. And this encounter with the Buddha, it's the classic lesson in skillful means in upaya.
And the key is how he approaches her.
Crucially, he sees her trauma. He understands her mind is barricaded. She can't handle abstract truths right then, like everything is impermanent. He can't just lecture her.
So he meets her where she is. He actually kind of validates her quest.
He does. He gives her hope first. Yes, I can help you, he says, but I need an ingredient. And the ingredient is so ordinary.
Just mustard seeds, common, cheap, like the cure is easy.
Exactly, signaling it's within reach. But then comes the condition, the twist.
The seeds have to come from a house
where no one is ever rallied. No child, no spouse, no parent, no servant. And that tiny condition changes everything. Her desperate, aimless wandering becomes this focused, therapeutic task.
Okay, so he's not offering a miracle, not giving a sermon. He's acting like a physician for the soul, prescribing an experience.
Precisely. He's ensuring she discovers the truth herself through her own investigation, empirically.
He makes her confront the evidence.
That's the genius of it. Real wisdom, especially the kind that can cut through that level of pain and trauma, you can't just be told it. You have to find it, feel it, own it yourself. The task forces her to exhaust her own delusion.
So she sets off, probably full of this desperate hope again. Finding mustard seeds is easy. Every house has them.
Every single one. But then she asks the question.
And house after house, the same answer.
It becomes this inescapable refrain, this pilgrimage of disillusionment. Oh, sister, the living are few, but the dead are many. It's repeated over and over.
And that repetition just drills through her initial perspective.
Completely dismantles it. She starts out focused on her terrible, unique loss. But the sheer weight of evidence, house after house, forces her to see it's not unique at all. It's a universal law.
The injustice she felt wasn't an injustice. It was just reality.
Her frantic search for just one exception ends up proving, beyond any doubt, that the rule of death is absolute, universal. That's the huge cognitive shift.
And the sources describe this specific moment of realization as evening comes.
Yes, this beautiful, poignant scene. She's exhausted, sitting by the road as dusk falls. She watches the lamps being lit across Shravasti flicker on one by one.
And
then, as the night wears on, they start to flicker out one by one.
Just like lives.
Exactly. That simple everyday sight, the flickering lamps, it hits her viscerally. It's an insight into Annika, impermanence, that goes beyond words. It exists outside her personal grief. She finally gets it. The folly of clinging.
And at that point, the medicine has done its work.
It has. She performs the funeral rites for her son. She lets go. And when she returns to the Buddha, she's transformed. The hysteria is gone, replaced by calm.
And her answer shows she understands.
Mustard seed is easy to find, she says, but a house untouched by death that cannot be found.
And because she reached that understanding through her own experience, her mind was ready.
Ready for the breakthrough. She instantly attains the first stage of enlightenment. She becomes a sapapana,
Which means?
stream enterer. It's crucial. It means she's entered the stream leading to nibbana, to liberation. It's not the final goal, arahantship, but it's irreversible. Her transformation is locked in.
It's just such a psychologically astute story, which makes the next part, the textual puzzle, even more interesting. This is the aha moment.
Right, because this incredibly resonant mustard seed story we just discussed, it's mainly from the commentaries, written centuries later.
Wait, so it's not in the earliest texts?
Not quite like that. The earliest texts, the canonical verses attributed directly to Kisa Gotami herself, her poems in the Therigatha, the songs of the elder nuns, they actually hint at a totally different, frankly, much more brutal tragedy.
Okay, wait. If the mustard seed story is so psychologically perfect, what does the original text say happened to her? This sounds darker.
Oh, it's incredibly dark. The canonical verses suggest this horrific cascade of loss. First, her husband dies from a snake bite. Then, she's crossing a river, a swollen river, with her 2 sons. A hawk swoops down and snatches the baby.
Oh my God.
In her panic and distress, trying to signal the older son, he misunderstands and gets swept away by the current.
Both sons. Go on.
Both gone. And then she finally makes it to her hometown, to her parents' house, seeking refuge, only to find out her parents and her brother all died in a house fire. And she arrives just as their bodies are being cremated together on a single pyre.
That's unbelievable. The scale of that loss. Husband, both sons, parents, brother, all in quick succession.
It's almost mythological in its horror. And that version, the text implies, is what drove her to utter madness, wandering naked and distraught.
So how does the tradition handle these two very different stories?
Well, it gets complicated. Sometimes in the commentaries, this extreme multiple loss story is actually attributed to a different famous nun, Patakara, while Kisa Gotami gets the mustard seed version, so there's a clear inconsistency.
But why? If the commentators were using these stories to teach, and the mustard seed one is, frankly, more relatable and maybe pedagogically effective, why not just quietly fix the discrepancy? Why keep the horrifying original verses in the canon?
And that tells you something really important about their approach. They had immense reverence for the canonical word, the Buddhavacana. They wouldn't alter those ancient Therigatha verses, even if they contradicted the popular story they preferred for teaching.
They let the contradiction stand.
They prioritized preserving the original text over narrative neatness, which is quite remarkable, actually.
So the scholarly thinking is that the mustard seed story just became more popular because the canonical one was, well, almost too much.
Too extreme, maybe too unrelatable for many. The death of a child, while devastating, is a more common human tragedy. The mustard seed story focuses beautifully on delusion, attachment, and the path to letting go through understanding impermanence. It's a near-perfect teaching vehicle.
Which is why it became the Kisa Gotami story everyone knows.
Exactly. It eclipsed the older, harsher canonical account in popular Buddhist culture.
Okay, let's step back and look at the sheer philosophical weight in that mustard seed parable. How does it map onto core Buddhist ideas, like the 3 marks of existence?
Oh, perfectly. It hits all 3. First, impermanence, Anika. That's the most obvious one, right? Proven by her failed search and hammered home by those flickering lamps.
Definitely. And suffering, dukkha.
Her entire agony is dukkha, and it comes directly from Tanteno craving and attachment. Her desperate clinging to her son's life, to her own social standing, refusing to accept change and loss.
And the third one, not self, anatom. It feels a bit more subtle here.
It is, but it's crucial. Her journey is about dissolving an isolated sense of self. She starts off as me, Kisa Gotami, the uniquely afflicted one. Why me?
Right.
But the journey forces her to see her suffering isn't unique at all. It's the shared human condition. That shift towards compassionate awareness, realizing this happens to everyone, that interconnectedness, that's the beginning of seeing through the illusion of a fixed, separate self.
That makes sense. Now, if we put on a modern psychology hat, Kisa Gotami walks into a therapist's office today. Her initial state is classic denial, maybe bargaining.
Absolutely textbook. And the Buddha's intervention, it's remarkably similar to modern techniques. Essentially a sophisticated behavioral task, almost like exposure therapy.
How so?
He doesn't let her hide from the reality of death. He makes her confront it systematically, door to door. She has to gather empirical evidence that directly contradicts her delusions.
So the whole task is designed to force cognitive reframing.
Exactly. She has to shift her internal story from this is a unique injustice happening to me to this is a universal reality of human existence, from personal catastrophe to shared truth.
And accepting this shared truth is the key to healing.
It seems to be. It cultivates what psychologists now call common humanity. Realizing your pain is shared, not isolating, reduces suffering. It fosters empathy. And moving from that isolated despair to shared understanding is often the basis for what we call post-traumatic growth.
It's fascinating how ancient wisdom maps onto modern frameworks. Even the symbol itself, the mustard seed, is interesting when you compare its use.
Oh, hugely different uses across traditions. In this Buddhist story, the seed, or rather the impossibility of finding the specific seed she needs, becomes the tool for radical disillusionment. Its unfindability proves the absolute rule of impermanence.
Whereas in Christianity, the parables of Jesus, the mustard seed is tiny but holds immense potential.
Right. It symbolizes faith, explosive growth, the kingdom of heaven expanding from the smallest beginning. It's all about future potential and magnification.
So same object, totally different symbolic weight. Buddhism uses its absence to teach acceptance of reality. Christianity uses its presence to teach faith and future growth.
That inversion really highlights the different aims. Kisa Gotami needed to accept the unchangeable present to find peace. The Christian parables often point towards manifesting a faithful future.
So Kisa Gotami's journey doesn't stop at that initial breakthrough, entering the stream. She goes further.
Much further. She gets ordained as a bhikkhuni, a nun in the Sangha. She dedicates her life to the path and eventually reaches the ultimate goal. She becomes an arahant, fully enlightened, liberated from all suffering.
And there's that one final detail about her life as a nun that the sources mention, which seems incredibly significant.
Yes, the Buddha recognized her as being foremost among the nuns who practiced lukashavardharana, which means wearing rough robes.
Rough robes? Made from what?
Essentially rags, cast-off cloth, maybe from charnel grounds or rubbish heaps. The absolute humblest clothing possible.
Why is that detail so important for her story?
Because it shows the complete turnaround. Her initial suffering was so tied up in clinging to status, to the security her marriage and son provided. Choosing to wear the roughest, most basic robes is the ultimate symbol of renunciation.
It proves she completely let go of all attachment to appearances, to status, to any kind of external validation.
Exactly. She embodied the understanding that all that is impermanent and ultimately not the source of true peace. It's a perfect closing of her spiritual arc.
And that whole arc, especially the mustard seed part, it clearly still resonates. You see references in grief counseling, in art, music.
Even kids' shows like Bluey have touched on it. Its resilience really speaks to how deeply it touches on a fundamental human experience.
The search for that specific mustard seed, it's really a metaphor, isn't it? For everyone's search for some kind of exemption, an exemption from pain, from loss, from mortality itself.
I think so. We all, in ways big or small, search for that house untouched by death, that loophole in the rules of existence.
And Kisa Gotami's true wisdom, the wisdom that led to her liberation, was finally understanding deeply and compassionately that the unfindable seed simply doesn't exist. And that acceptance, it wasn't just coping, it wasn't resignation.
No, it was the gateway, the necessary first step towards the ultimate freedom, towards nibbana, the actual end of suffering. Realizing there's no exemption is the path to peace.